Good morning, everyone. Just wait for it to catch up. I think there's a slight delay from my end to your end. But ultimately, welcome to Risk Assessor Pro live demo. So what we're going to go through today is risk assessment side of the app, but I'll give you a really quick run through of the whole thing and what we can do and what the kind of app offers and how to find out pricing and work out what's right for you. And then what we're going to do is demo the risk assessment side. And then what we're going to do with these live demos is we're going to do them on a monthly basis, and we go through different parts, different modules of the app every single time. So this week we're going to start with risk assessments, and like I say, I'll give you a quick introduction into the pricing and stuff as well. So let's get started then. So when you go to the website of Risk Assessor, this is what you'll see. So when you're on the website, I'll change the screen slightly so you can see. There we go. So you can see the whole screen. So you'll see the website of Risk Assessor Pro. Now, if you're already registered up to Risk Assessor Pro, what you'll do is you'll click here to log on. But if it's your first time, and if maybe you've watched this demo and you're thinking, I'd like to know how much this would cost, all of our pricing is up front and on the website. You find everything out. And I like to start here because, I don't want to hit you with the sales speech, and then you kind of go, well, that's out of budget. So we like to start here. And essentially, there are 4 ways to work with us. These 3 here, Pro, Business, and Enterprise, are essentially just pre-made packages, okay? And this one here is a pay-as-you-go. All the differences really is that this one you add users as you go, and this one, all of these ones here, you get a bulk of users unlocked. So here you'll have 200 users, 100 users, and 50 users. You also get a bulk of storage, of renting the space in the cloud, so to speak, unlocked as well. So you can see you get 2 gig, 2 gig, and 1 gig on the Enterprise, Business, and Pro retrospectively. The pay-as-you-go, you can go into here and you can click calculate, and now you can build that yourself. So let's say you only want 5 users and you think, I'll just need 150 megabytes. As a rough guide, 150 megabyte give you a couple of thousand documents on the basis of like not too many pictures and they're not huge and so on. So most businesses are probably fine, like most small businesses probably fine with 150 megabytes. But if you're a big business, lots of safety teams or lots of operational people doing risk assessments all around the world, you're probably going to want to go up to like your gig and so on. But that's how you do that. And then if you change to annual or monthly, then the pricing will change because you lose a slight discount if you go to monthly. But otherwise, the price is there. All the prices is the same. Everything is the same, from the packages to the pay-as-you-go. It's all priced exactly the same. The only added benefit, particularly for the bigger companies, when you go on the free packages, on the Pro, Business, or Enterprise, you can pay by backs. That's the only difference. Here you can only pay by card. Okay, so once you've done that, you've picked your package. It will ask you to register, and I'll just log in now. So I've purchased my account, so to speak, and I'll log into my account and get started on some risk assessments. So once we log in, well, what we see is the home section. The home section is essentially the filing system. It's no different from your filing system on your OneDrive or your Google Drive or anything like that. All the files that you have will be seen here. Now, on this demo account, we've set this up as sites, for example. So in this business, we have a Northampton site, London site, Derby site, and a Derby site, and a Doncaster site, right? You might do this as customers. So if you're like a trade-based company or an engineer-based company that's going to multiple different sites all the time, but you're only there for a couple of hours, but you need to do the RAMs, then we would probably advise you setting that up like customers, for example. So it'd be like Morrisons, Sainsbury's, Tesco, etc., etc. And then the RAMs for those customers would sit in there. So how do we get started with risk assessments then? Well, you've just purchased the app, and the first thing you're going to need to do is build what we call the hazard libraries, which you can see here on the hazard and controls. Once you click in there, you can see what is a pretty basic, we call standard library. This is essentially just a demo library. Now, this is really dead basic and simple. And the reason for this is because we need it to be nice and easy and quick for people to try it. Right. So when you try the app for free, so you download it, people just want to see how quickly they can do a risk assessment. So we set it up like that. But what you need to do is get some better hazards and controls in there. And there are a couple ways of doing that. What we can do is import from our existing, we can import from our existing master library, we call, for example. So we can import into our standard template, and we can submit, and this will take you through now to what we call our master library. So you can see there's a hell of a lot more hazards in here. I'm going to pull them over now. So you go, oh yeah, we'll do some of that, we'll do some of that, we'll do some of that, do some of that. So what you'll notice here as well is on the right-hand side, you get some example control measures as well. So these are all pre-entered in. These are included once you sign up to the app. So you can download as many of these as you want. You just go through and select them, and when they go yellow, they're selected. Once you've got happy with everything that you've got, you click import. Press OK, and that will import it now into your standard library. So you've got the existing kind of demo ones in there, and your ones that you've exported from the master library in there as well. Now, what you might want to do, because you're doing multiple different things, let's say the Northampton site is a warehouse, but the London site is a factory. So two kind of different sets of hazards and risks and controls. So what we might actually want to do is set up multiple libraries. So we might want to do a kind of warehouse library, for example. And then we might want to do a factory library. And then what we'll have in those two libraries is different hazards. Now, you can see it automatically brings over the standard ones. If you want to keep them, great. If you don't, you just click delete, and you can go through and delete as many or as little as you want to. And you can keep going. And then again, we can just start to import from that master library. So now we're looking for factory specific hazards, for example. So we might go down to say conveyor belt, crush on machinery. We're going to have some DSE in there, for example. Electric shop. Let's see if we find some more. Let's say we've got generator, hot surface, high voltage area, mobile plant, nip points, pinch points, so on. You get the idea. Let's have pressure systems as well. So now we would start to build our factory specific hazards, and we would import them over. And that's brought them over to our factory specific hazard library. And then we can do the same for warehouse, and hopefully you get the gist. Now, let's say we've pulled as many as we can over from the master library, but there's a few in there, or we want to bespoke them. So we're like conveyor belt, we want to add some more detail to that. So we would click edit, and it would take you through to the edit. Oh, excuse me. It'll take you through to the edit page. Now, this is where you can edit the name, the title, or the statement for the hazard. And over here, you can see the control measures that we put in. So you can change all of these, and you can also add or remove them if you would like to. So we could put conveyor belt on machine 2. You put more as a detail as you want to. And then you might want to put some more detail in here, or maybe there's a control measure missing. So you might go, let's put the plus sign up here, and we're going to add another control measure. And I'm just going to put example, because I can't think of any other control measures. So we'll put example in there, and we click submit, and that goes through there. Now we can see conveyor belt on machine 2. As well, when we're in here, what we can see over here on the right-hand side, so we're back in the edit screen now. On the right-hand side, we've also got worst-case outcome and likelihood and precautions, likelihood given precautions in place. So this is when we do the risk assessment. This is your this is your matrix, so to speak. Okay. So in the hazard library, you can set these as default. Now they can be changed in the risk assessment. All of these can be changed in the building of the risk assessment. So it still gives you that dynamic nature of a risk assessment. But also what it gives you is the ability to create nudges and influence behavior a little bit. So we might say that actually this is a severe injury outcome, and let's say it's quite likely. But when they put the control measures on, we want them to hopefully reduce that from likely down to, say, remote. But we're going to set it as a default as likely and severe. So we click submit. You're going to want to do that with all of your hazards. So when you first get the app, you need to spend some time building the hazard libraries, getting it to work for how you run your business. And that's really important. You get the hazard libraries right first, the doing of the risk assessments becomes so much easier. And that's where the magic really steps in, that you can really start to generate good quality risk assessments, reduce a lot of the legwork, and also speed the process up by reducing that legwork. So we've built our hazard libraries, right? Now there are multiple ways to do a risk assessment. So on that process, what we're going to do is show you how to do it both on the tablet and also on the desktop. So I'll show you it on the tablet today, but what it looks like on the tablet is exactly the same on the mobile phone. So if you have an Android or an Apple tablet, that's fine. It will work the same. If you have an Android or an Apple phone, that's fine. It will work the same. The only thing to think about here is that the Windows tablets are currently not compatible. So those few people out there that have the Windows tablets, it's currently not compatible. If you have an Apple tablet or a Samsung tablet or Android, anything like that, same for phones, all compatible, and it would all look the same. We've recently done a update, and it's a little bit slicker and a lot quicker as well, which is great news. So let's get into it then. So now we're going to do a risk assessment. So let's say we need to do a new risk assessment for our Northampton site, and we're going to say our Northampton site is our factory. So we would click new here. So we click new. What that's doing is telling the system we want to add a new risk assessment into the system. It knows that into that folder, sorry. It knows I'm talking about risk assessment because I'm in the risk assessment module, which is here. So this helps you navigate around the system. So I'm in the risk assessment module of the app. What it's going to do is show me all of the risk assessments for these folders and remove everything else. If I was in method statements, it would show me all the procedures or method statements for that folder and so on. So by clicking new, when I'm in risk assessment, I'm telling the system, I'd like to add a new risk assessment into this folder, please. So let's say we're going to go with machine 2 risk assessment. And then we're going to go general operation of machine 2. Oh. And then what we can do here is we can, let's hide that. We can upload some images, or we can skip the images. What I'm going to do for now is upload images, not upload images, because I'm going to show you what that looks like on the phone, because it's a lot easier and a lot better on the phone. It works fine on here. But I think that for the demo's purposes, it looks a lot nicer on the phone. So we'll skip images. There's a difference between reference images and upload images. If you're uploading reference images, essentially they are just pictures that will sit on the document, but they don't connect with the assessment. And when I show you it on the tablet, that will make some more sense. So what we'll do for now is skip images. Now it's going to take us to that hazard library that we've just built. If we want to change the hazard library, we can over here in the top right corner, so factory, standard, or warehouse. So we know we're doing a factory today, and we're doing machine 2. So we've got conveyor belt. Let's say we've got some crush points as well. And let's say we've got some hot surfaces and also some cold surfaces, right? So we'll go with that. Once we've selected our hazards that we want to select for that machine, we would click next. We can now add some more detail on here if we want to. This probably works a lot better for those of you that are using this system for RAMs, where you're on different sites all the time. So you can do a lot of the legwork in the hazard library, but you might need to add some more detail. So for example, you might say, for example, conveyor belt 2 on machine 2, conveyor belt on machine 2. And then if we were working on different sites all the time, we would say located at the rear of the farm, for example, right? I don't know why you take a machine to a farm, but you get the gist, right? So we got that dynamic nature. We can do that on the control measures as well. So just type an example on there, and that would change it in the document. So I'll do that on both of these, but it won't change it in the library. So it gives you that dynamic nature, but it's not affecting that back of house hazard library. So we go through now and we select the ones that we want. And what you're thinking now is, what's the difference between additional and already in place? Great question, as if it was planned. So additional would mean we have customers who use this in very different ways, but additional, I think one of the better ways we've seen it work, particularly for those of you that may be out and about doing different sites, using like the RAMS approach, for example. Those that Hey Jay, I've got your question. I will definitely come back to that, mate. Thank you very much. Those that go to different sites, they might do something like trained competent staff is already in place. But then what they might say is, let's find something that you would do on the day, startup process. They might put that as additional, for example. So that's something that they do on the day. And then the other stuff is something that they do prior to getting to site, if that makes sense. Other ways to do it is just do already in place and leave that on all. Other ways to do it is additional is what it says on the tin, and they are things that you need to put in place. So you can click additional. So I'll put additional on these two so you can see what that looks like. Any of these ones that you don't select don't go on the document. So you just go through, and when selecting hazard, can it be grouped rather than searching down the full list? Great question, Jay. So I'll come back to that on hazard libraries. You can select favorites, which I'll share how to do it in a moment. So we whiz through this then. Again, we want to think about the outcome and the likelihood. These have been set as default, so we can change these now if we want to. Let's say the outcome stays the same, but with the control measures, we change it to remote. And we go through and we select our control measures and we click next, and we just keep going until we've finished. If we want to add some more, we click add. And again, this would add to here, but it doesn't add to the final hazard library. So I'll put that one in there. That's an example. Let's say we want to have that as additional. Again, let's drop this down to remote. And we just keep going until we've gone through all of the hazards. Now, once we've gone through the hazard, we come to essentially like a signposting system point of the document. So basically we're saying, is there any further assessments you need to be aware of that you might need to go and read? So let's say, yeah, Northampton site has a fire assessment, and there's some cost assessments for this document, for this machine as well. So we need you to be aware of those. Persons involved, we would have employees. Let's say there's some visitors and some contractors potentially interacting with this machine, and we've got no special groups at the moment, so we'll leave that as is. I also want to be able to review this. I want a nudge to review this in, say, a year's time. So I'm going to click yes, and I'm going to say, right, in the 26th, in 2025, I want to, that's a Sunday, so let's go with Monday, 27th. I want to review that. I want the system to remind me a month before, so I'll click that there. The sign off is reviewed and sign off is read and understood. I'm going to show you how to do that after the document, but I'll quickly explain the difference between the two. Reviewed would be, the best way to explain this, if you have, say, the general operations manager for the Northampton site, for example, is done this risk assessment, but you want your safety team to review it and check it's okay, that would be signed off as reviewed. Signed off as read and understood would be the machine operator who's operating that machine. And I'll show you how to do those in a moment as well. So we'll leave those as no for now. So we click next. And now what it's doing is taking all that information with your branding, what you put in with your system, and it's going to go through and insert all of that information into the document. And then what we can do is click finish, and that would basically create the PDF. We can see that there now sits in the folder. So now what I want to do is I want to send it to my safety person to review that. So I click request review. I've obviously completely forgot to set up more users on this account, but ultimately what would happen there is it would show me a drop down of users, and then I would ping that over to, say, Jay, for example, and And then Jay would get a notification on his system to say review. And then what Jay would do then would go over to here and click review. Can read the report here by clicking view. That'll just open the PDF. And then what we would do here is go, yep, I'm happy with that. So I'd go James McPherson. And then I can either squiggle my signature or I can upload my signature, which will just take me to my documents and pictures. So I'll squiggle my signature and I will click save. All that does now is insert the signature here next to the person that did it. So you can upload, pre-upload a signature for you as a user. So what you'll see there is their signature as well. And if you squiggle it in, it will do it there as well. So finally, we got the sign off as read and understood. And I'm going to show you that on the tablet, because I think the best way to do that would be you would get your phone or your tablet and you go out on the shop floor next to the machine. You would go to site on the job just before you're about to start, like a pre-shift brief or something, and you would do the sign off. So what I'm going to do now is show you how to, I'll do Jay's question and then I'll show you how to do a risk assessment on the tablet, see what it looks like, use the photo option. Once we get to the end of that, I'll show you how to do the sign off as well. So Jay's question, thank you very much, Jay, for watching and for the question as well. So when selecting hazard, can they be grouped rather than searching down the full list? So essentially what the advice there would be, build the hazard library. It's a fine line, Jay. So we want to build the hazard library as kind of specific as we can, but not too specific. So we don't want the hazard library to have everything. To your point, just be scrolling forever, right? We also don't want it too niche, because if we have, say, chemical hazard library and a pure hazard library and a Lola hazard library, for example, those hazards might all apply to one task. So you need to kind of bring them over. But we have seen customers make a success of that as well. So what you can also do once you're creating, let me go into here. What you can do is I'll just click example. So for example, if I'm the general operator of, if I'm the general manager of Northampton, I tend to do the same style of risk assessments all the time. So I can click favorites as well. And then what those favorites will do is save in my favorites, and then I can click faves, and that will just show my faves over there. If that makes sense, I turn faves off and then just go from there. So what I can do as well is you can kind of create those library as, apologies, that was my fault. Where have we gone? Excuse me, sorry mate, let's go example, live pressure, skip images. Okay, yeah, so we get those favorites there and those faves sit there. We could obviously have those multiple libraries and get them as niche and targeted as we can. The grouping is essentially the hazard library, if that makes sense. So we can go through and do those, and then, like I say, you can utilize the favorite process if that goes through. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm not going to make another example assessment because we'll be here forever. Oakley dokley. So let's have a look what it looks like on the tablet then. So I've got my iPad here ready to go. Let's get it so you can see it. So when you log into your iPad or your tablet, this is essentially what you see. This is the same version of the filing system, but just in the view of the tablet. So you'll see your risk assessments there. If you don't see your risk assessments, you can click the little blue, sorry, I just realized you probably wouldn't have seen that. You can click the little blue icon down here, and that's the cloud basically. So if I click that and I can say I need to pull down the Northampton sites, I click Northampton and click download. Download successful. Okay, great. That's downloaded all my risk assessments in there now for Northampton, right? So I want to add a new assessment. I would click new, and it's a very similar process. Well, it's exactly the same, just looks slightly different. There's a couple of added benefits that we can do for on the tablet or on the phone. Because of the nature of the tablet is out and about, or the nature of the phone is out and about, this is a really nice benefit for those that are doing multiple different sites. So doing like the RAMS approach, engineering, construction, trades, things like that. They can toggle this little button here and it adds GPS. And then once they've done that, you get the ability to be able to add the weather forecast. So you click I understand, and then it gives you that weather forecast there. And you click next. What that now do, we just add that to the bottom of the risk assessment. So that's a really nice feature if you're working outside, construction, trade, particularly if you're working at height or anything like that. We didn't cover key working staff on the desktop version, but if we've got like a team of people that we're doing the job, we can add them to the document as well, and they'll be specifically named. So we can click Andrew here, for example. So we've got Bruce as the assessor, and then Andrew is on the key staff. And we'll have a little description in here, and so what we'll do is we'll add a reference photo, and we'll click take photo. I'll do it of my lovely Star Wars and rugby themed backgrounds. And we will click next. And then what we do now is we'll click next again, and then it's going to say, would you like to proceed with a photo or without a photo, or would you like to choose one for a library? So let's say we're going to go with a photo again, and then take another photo of my lovely Star Wars memorabilia, not toys, memorabilia. We click next. So we can take another photo if we'd like to, but ultimately what we'll do is we'll click next. And you'll notice that it's given us a grid over that image. So what this does now is it takes that hazard library that we've got. If we want to change the hazard library, we can go to here and we can say we want the factory library. So we just click on this book up here and we change it to factory library. And if we can't remember what those mean, we can go there, and then if we have selected some favorites, we can click favorites up there on the top as well. So all hazards, favorites. So now we've got the icons, right, for all of those hazards that we selected. So when we built that that library, you'll notice they all had icons. I will show you how to change the icons in a moment. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through these and we're going to drop these icons to where they apply. So let's say the top of that shelf, for example, was our conveyor belt. And then this light over here is definitely an electric shock risk. And then just over here, just out of shot, for example, is the road for the forklift truck. And then let's say the TIE Fighter, for example, is a terribly noisy machine. So we've got some noise hazards there. And finally, this salt lamp over here is a hot surface. Can we think of any more jovial things? Not really. Let's say Yoda has generated, oh, that's not Yoda, that's Grogu. Terrible. Let's say Grogu has generated some electrical force powers, and we'll put that over him as well. Once we've done those, we'll click this little arrow icon at the bottom and it will take us through. Now the process, you'll recognize it, is exactly the same. So we can add things in here if we would like to. We can ask it to show us it on the grid, so it reminds us where it is on the grid. Great, thank you very much. And what we do is we can click next, and it will take us to the next one. And it's the same process. You can check and adjust your outcomes and your likelihoods, and then you go through the exact same process of already in place and additional. You can add control measures if you'd like. Example, and then we select that new one. And we just click next and we go through each one individually, adding details wherever we need to. And we just keep going until we've reached the end of the hazards that we have selected, which on this demo, I've clearly selected way too many hazards. And now we get to the signposting part. So essentially, again, it said, do we need to signpost to any other risk assessment? Yeah, I want you to be aware of fire and COSH, and let's say manual handling as well for this one. We have some employees. We don't have any visitors on this site, for example, but we can have some contractors on site, and no special groups for now. Yes, I want to follow up, and I want to follow up again in 1 year's time. Let's say start the month, and I want you to remind me 1 month before. Let's go with an hour before. And we click yes. So once signed off as reviewed, I'd say no, let's leave it as is for now. And again, I'll show you how to request a review on the tablet as well. You can do everything on the tablet as you can on there. I'm going to go sign off as read and understood and say no for now, because I want my safety team, or I want my manager, or I want my colleague to review it. So we'll click no for now. And we say, yep, accept, happy with that. And we go through, and normally there's some nice colors on here. So these are normally colored, and these are normally colored, and this is normally colored. So something wrong with my demo account. So apologies for that, but I appreciate that normally these would have some colors on there. It wouldn't look just plain white. It looks a bit more sexy, if that makes sense. And then your icons also have gone green. So there's definitely a bad day today for our first live. So I'm not sure what's going on there, whether that's the internet connection or something wrong with the system. I'll look into that, but normally they wouldn't change to that green color, and these colors at the top here would be there as well. And you can see our reference image is there as well. So this is our image we use for the grid, and then this is our extra image for reference, and then here is our GPS, and then here is our weather forecast. So we click save and we go complete, and now here we've got our risk assessment. So the little green ticks you can see here are indicating it's been uploaded to the cloud. So what that means is that someone else can now see that at the other end. So say, really good example would be the manager is in the office, but the person is out on the road doing risk assessments. You want to see if they've done it, or you need to know if it's in the cloud for them to review it. You just check the green tick. Second, you have internet connection, or the internet connection is improved, it will upload automatically. So if I want to request a review, I would just click on the document I want, and then again, I would request review by just clicking down here, request review. And it's the same process. If there was users logged into the system, then I would be able to go with them. Let's say it's been reviewed. I want to go, okay, I'm going to take it out on the shop floor now, and I want my team to sign off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click sign off. I'm going to view the report. I'm going to do a little briefing and say, right, lads and ladies, thank you very much for coming for this briefing. We've done the risk assessment for machine 2. I'm just going to run you through some of the hazards, blah, blah, blah. And most of you get the idea. So we're just going to brief them on the control measures, read that out to them, have a conversation with them, any questions, blah, 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 click back, and then I'm going to pass it round one by one. I'm going to say, just click view report, have a little read for me. I've briefed you on it anyway, but have a little read for me. Once you're happy with it, please just type your name, first name, last name, and put your signature in. So we would click first name, James, second name, McPherson, and then I'm going to sign it off. And then click add another. So I'm going to click here in the middle, add another, and I hand it to Steve, my good mate Steve. Me and Steve always running this machine. Where you go, Steve Smith, classic. Steve's going to sign it off as well. And then we click done. It's just me and Steve being briefed today. So we click done. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the document, and we can see there the signatures have been added to the document. So when we click save, save is complete. All those signatures are now in the risk assessment, ready to go. Question, does it have a section for secrets? Sorry, Jake, let me read your question. Does it have a section for sequence of works so you can add a an MS, a method statement? Yes. Okay. So method statement, Jay, great question. Thank you very much again for your question, buddy. Oh, let me get rid of that for you. So I'm assuming on MS you mean method statement. So what you can do in the method statement module, which we're going to demo in the next show, you can build your method statements in here. And then once you've built them, they'll sit in this folder, and you can link them to the risk assessment. So they'll show as 2 documents. So they'll have like a RAMS document, if that makes sense. Now, they're called method statements. If you don't call them method statements, you call them procedures or anything like that, you can change the name on the document. So if you call it standard operating procedure, policy, protocol, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can change that. We're going to go through that in the next session. But to answer your question, Jay, yes, you can. Well, look at the question piling in now. Thank you, David. Hey, James, can the score and rating be changed to high, medium, low, or are they default built into the system? Yeah, the wording of them is built into the system. So it's actually a really good question. It kind of broadens out the flexibility of the design and the wordings and stuff on the risk assessment is relatively rigid. There's a reason for that, because what we want to try and keep is the structure and the look of the risk assessment document looking like what we deem as looking like a risk assessment, if that makes sense. So we want it to have that landscape feel, that kind of column and table feel and look. The trade-off of that is it creates a lot of rigidity in the document, if that makes sense. There's not a lot of space for us to play. We are looking this year at adding another template. So what you can do is go into my profile over here and click settings. And then once you're in there, you can, I don't remember how to do this bit now, you caught me off guard. Oh, you've caught me. Here we go. So we click edit in here. Apologies for that. I got the wrong section. So we would go into here, into my profile details, edit. You can see here it says assessment type standard. And then what we can do is change 5x5 matrix there if we wanted to. So we can change that. We click update. And that does change the boxes slightly. So I do want, oh, so sorry, method statement. Oh, go away. Assessment. Here we go. So I'll show you what that looks like real quick. Skip. Let's just do 2. And same again to go through. The wording's still the same. Click next. And there you go, it just adds the numbering system on there, if that makes sense. And there you go, your colours are back. So it adds the numbering system on the 5x5. Again, if you had any additional, it would say the same there. That does then give you the end rating, if that makes sense. So the end rating gives you the high, medium, low, but the beginning wording is rigid. I hope that makes sense. So there is some flexibility, but when it comes to risk assessment, really, it's actually quite rigid. The method statement side and the other parts of the app, like a checklist, is very flexible, but the risk assessment is not. One more question from Jay. No problem, mate. So what do we got? One more question. Can you add other languages on the document? Great question. It's something we've been thinking of actually this year. So the app currently, the system currently just comes in the one language, but you can write the hazard libraries in any language you want. However, we understand what that would look like. The document would be in part English and part whatever language you want. That is something that we're looking at, but as you can imagine, that's a big job. So it's not something we've done in the past, but it is something we're trying to add, but it's going to take us a while, Jay. But thank you for a really good question. Okay. Hopefully, I see you've said, method statement as well. Hopefully that answers your method statement as well. Notice the hazards in it only showed. Another question, sorry, I didn't see that one, Jay. Notice the hazards you used only showed on the picture. Does on the top / front page of the hazard summary? Sorry if I missed it. So I think what you mean there, Jay. So I noticed the hazard symbol you used only showed on the picture. Does the risk assessment show a summary on the top? So kind of like when you get an SDS, for example, and you get the icons along the top. Currently, no, but I actually think that's quite a good idea, Jay. Thank you very much. But No, currently doesn't do that. The icons literally exist just for the photo. It's a good idea. I quite like it. Again, we end up with the rigidity challenge of the risk assessment and how tight that document is with all the information. So the icons literally just exist for the grid image at the bottom, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. So a couple last things on risk assessment. I'll keep an eye on the questions, but thank you very much, Jay and David, for firstly coming along and asking questions. It's always good when people ask questions. It's a great opportunity for us to learn some more. So a couple last things I wanted to show you. So how to change the icon. So if I wanted to change the icon here, I could click edit and I go into the edit function within the system, and I click select. There are a load of pre-entered icons in there. So some of them are you probably won't like, and some of them you will like. These ones are kind of more just imagery, general imagery. A lot of these around like machinery. Then we've got like the new hazard symbols, some kind of signage type symbols and so on. So you can go through and select as many of those as in there as you like. Obviously one for each hazard. But what you can also do is upload your own. So if you click upload, you can have your own. So a really good example would be in the international standards, you've got an ISO for imagery for like machinery. Icons, I suppose, is the best way. So we have got one customer that uses those. So they buy them individually for themselves whenever they need them, and they upload them into the system. We've also seen another customer just screenshot a load of stuff off of Google. I wouldn't endorse that, but if you want to do that, then please feel free to. So really, you can do whatever you want with the images. You can upload as many as you would like in there. So that's how you change the icons in there. And then a last couple of things on risk assessor, on risk assessment side, which I really like. Firstly is the planner. So on the demo account, we don't really have many planners, but you can see that over here, it's not coming up for a while. So this would show me January over here, but this one's not till next year now. So I can see the next up and coming one that I've got is a risk assessment to review on the 27th of 1st, 2025. So great, I've got no work to do for the rest of the year. Awesome. If you wanted to export a CSV to put it in our Outlooks, we can. If you set this as a month notice, what we have started to notice in the newer updates of Outlook and Google, when it gets that email, it tends to pick it up and drop a little pin in your diary anyway. But obviously, that's only going to work when it gets the email. So if you set it as a month notice, it's only going to go into your diary with a month ahead, if that makes sense. So what we would say is get your planner up and running, do all your risk assessments, as you're transitioning over to the system, put all your reviews in, and then once you've got them in, you can export the CSV, put it in your Outlook, put it in your Google Calendar. If you're a business that probably doesn't do reviews because you're going to one site for a day, another site for a day, another site for a day, so you're probably not so much reviewing. It's probably not going to be a huge value add. But if you've got long construction projects, you want to review it every month, then again, this is going to be a really good nudge and a helpful reminder. So you can filter to and from for your dates, so you can really start to see what's going on. But ultimately, those of you that are annually reviewing risk assessments, this is the planner really comes into its own then. And then last but not least, we don't have a lot of risk assessments on the demo account, the new demo account so far, so it's not going to pick up much. But ultimately, if you imagine you've got all of our sites across the country, across the world, with loads of risk assessments, what this does is it reads the risk assessment document and it pulls out the hazards and it pulls out the sites and how many times it's been selected. So now we can start to build a little mini risk register in a way, so we can start to see that crush points are our kind of leading hazard, along with lone working, for example. And then we can see that some of the others are relatively low. But you can imagine if you get a lot of numbers on this and a lot of people using it, you can really start to get a good idea of the hazards and the risks of your business. So that's really nice. You can filter by sites as well. So if I just want to have a look at the Northampton site, for example, I can see just as Northampton site, see our crush points are a leader at Northampton, actually. That's interesting. And you can really start to drill down into it. Another interesting thing that the the stats side of the system does is it starts to help us get a gauge on like risk appetite in a way, because we can start to see that people are only selecting low or medium on the kind of risk count or the risk matrix. So the outcomes of what we're doing is low or medium or high. So this will be where we have that matrix coming through. So once we got that matrix and it's coming through with that that end result, what we can say is, in Northampton, it's all low and medium. That doesn't make sense. Northampton's like our most dangerous site in the whole business. That's interesting. Let's go have a look. So it gives you like a nice snapshot, so to speak, of people's risk appetite or just ultimately the risk of site. You can change the layouts from like bar charts and pie charts and so on. So we click format over here. So we want to see it in a pie chart. We want to see it in a line graph or a sideways bar, so on. Then we can start to filter the hazards if we'd like to. Again, we can filter by the sites or the customer, or however you manage your system. It filters by the system, basically, if that makes sense. You can then export these into a PDF. So if you wanted to add it into your kind of board report, you can export them into a PDF as well. So it gives you that kind of ability for particularly the bigger businesses who want to report back to the team, or maybe they've got local team reporting to a central team or something like that. And in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, that is risk assessments. Just trying to run through my little crib sheet, make sure I haven't forgot anything. Oh, I have forgot one last thing. I'm going to jump back onto the tablet for this one. So let me get set back up on the tablet. My apologies. So we have added artificial intelligence, which in my case is just intelligence, because it's much better than I am at stuff like this. We can access that really nice and really well in the tablet. It works really slick is the best way to kind of show you on the tablet. So for example, if I wanted to import some example hazards, you can see that gives me the AI example. Now, all the AI is an assisted search, really. So this is really helpful when you get kind of writer's block, so to speak, on a risk assessment. So if you are kind of just can't see the wood for the trees, there's so many hazards, you don't really know where to start, or if you are kind of just wanting to check what you've done, make sure you've missed anything, basically what you do is you would put in a kind of type of work or a task or an industry. So if we say like sign fitting as an example there, we click sign fitting, and it does take a minute or so. We click generate, and then what the AI will do is just search the classic World Wide Web. I'll have a drink of coffee whilst we're waiting for it. Here we go. And it just gets us a few examples just to help us with that writer's block or that check. It gives us a hazard and a couple of example controls. Now, obviously, this is an AI. It's not a decade worth of experience safety professional. This is just there to nudge you and help you and guide you and check and maybe take some of the, get the words going in your brain, take a little bit of the legwork out. So essentially what you could do now is just click on the ones that you like, and you click next. I want to import those, and then it'll ask you to add an icon. So we'll just add, I didn't see what that one was, electric, so that's wrong, but we'll go with that one. And then manual handling, we'll select another icon. I can't find manual handling, so we'll go with that. We click import, and they've been imported into my hazards. If you want to sort anything, you can in there. And essentially, that is that. Yep. Anything else I've checked? Let me check for any other questions. And that one from Jay. And that's Jay. David, didn't see that second question, mate. Sorry. Who controls the accuracy of data entry so there are no misunderstandings from defining hazards and risks within the library? Okay, so I think I've understood your question right. So essentially, whoever builds the hazard library, David, so essentially if we're building these hazard libraries, and feel free to comment again if there are any if I've misunderstood your question. So when you're kind of building that back of house hazard library, so let's say it was your safety team, David, for example, or if you're, say, the consultant. So we've on the risk fluent side of the business, where we've got a lot of customers that are using this, we build the hazard libraries for our customer. So we'll go and we'll do some familiarization on the site. We'll work out what they do, what the hazards are. We'll take a long list. We'll come back and we build the hazard library. So we go, okay, they do 3 different types of work. So on those 3 different types of work, there's X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z hazards. We build the hazard libraries because we're the safety professionals, so we know that wording that we want to see in there. And then we can put that into the hazard library, and that just does all of the legwork. So essentially, from that point of view, me as a safety professional or my consultants for my customer, they control the quality of the data, if that makes sense. I hope I've understood your question right. Where the control kind of starts to, I say maybe reduce might be the right phrase. If you get to the site, so someone's doing the risk, so your safety team have built it for those example sites. So for example, we've got these ones here. We've got Northampton, London, Derby, and Doncaster. So I'm the head of safety for these sites, and I want my ops manager for each of those sites to do the risk assessment, because I'm just a team of one, right? I build the hazard library as best I can. Those people could technically go through, select a load of hazards, delete them, and then write them in their own way. Yes, they could, 100%. I'd say it was more of a training and competency issue, but ultimately the aim of the hazard library is to do the main bulk of work, and then all they're adding on the end is just little bits of detail. So instead of like drilling, for example, we might put using drill 3 on the wall. Or on masonry brick, or on this or that, for example. So those site-specific or machine-specific or task-specific bits we expect to be added on the risk assessment stage, but the main bulk of the control and work of wording and so on happens at the hazard library stage. Hopefully that makes sense. Grand. So I covered AI, I've covered library, I've covered, struggle to keep track of all the things we've got. Filing system, reviews, we've got all of that. Let me jump into the files. See if there we go. Knew I'd forget something. QR codes. So what we can do with this here, so if you've got fixed sites or plant or equipment, I think the QR code really starts to come into its own. So basically what you can do here now for, let's say, machine 2 risk assessment, I want to take machine 2's risk assessment, I want to get a QR code. So I'm going to create a QR code, and we'll enable anyone who zaps the QR code to open that assessment. So I'm going to click OK. And that's going to create me a QR code. It's going to download it here for me. And then just over here, we can see we've got 2. We've got a sticker and a poster. So that's just different sizes, basically. So the poster is larger, and then the sticker is just a lot smaller. So you can get them printed into stickers if you want to. And then the point of that essentially is that you would just stick that to your machine, put the poster near your machine, and then all people need to do is they go onto the app and they'll just kind of scroll down on the search. I'll show you what that looks like. So put the tablet back up. I haven't got any QR. When we get those QR codes back up, actually, and I can do it, and you can see it. There we go. Okay, so then if I get the tablet, so for example, on the tablet, I can just scroll down on my finger, and then it's not letting me do it anymore. So just click on that QR code icon up there. Apologies for that, and then get the camera. Ooh. And then basically that's just imported that into there for me, and review the report. And there we go. If we do it, we don't do it through the app, then what that does is it opens up in PDF. So it just kind of opens up a PDF in your app or your phone. Sometimes it does depend on whether you've got a PDF app in your phone, but it tends to just open the browser, but it can vary. So ultimately, most of the time, people are users anyway. See, thank you for the clarification, David. So yeah, I'll come back to that, David, in 1 second. So yeah, people that are users on the app, they can just click on that QR code button and they scan the QR code, and it will import that risk assessment into their library, and then they can click on that, view it, edit it, so on, depending on their access. So often seen, for example, often seen on risk assessments, slip, trips and falls recorded as a hazard. They're an outcome. What can cause a slip, trip or fall is a hazard. How would that be defined and managed in the library? Okay, yeah, so essentially it would be how you write it. So because you write the library, for me, that's more of a competence training or interpretation issue. So it's on the competence of the person to kind of write that into the hazard library. So, for example, instead of putting slip, trips and falls, you might put training leads, for example. So it's quite often that when we get consulting customers that have risk assessor as well, we'll take them through some training for stuff like that. But great question. Yeah, really good question. Fall from height would be another example, I suppose. But yeah, so you're writing that into that hazard library. So we've got the hazard library here, and we're going to write this in. So we're going to click add new. So we've got a new hazard that we're writing in here. So instead of writing slips and trips, we would just write, for example, trailing leads. Let's see if we can find a good icon for trailing leads. I think there is a trip icon. There's a couple there. Oh, there we go. That's a good one. Trailing leads cross pathway. Ugh. Ah, God, you know when your spelling's bad that you're I'm under pressure now. That even your spell check can't work it out. And then we would add some control measures. So that's something here, just housekeeping, just as a quick example. Add as many or as little as you want. We'll set the preset outcome as, say, let's say minor. But we'll say it's very likely. And then we click submit, and then that would sit in alphabetical order. So now sit just somewhere down here. There we go. Trailing leads at the bottom. So essentially, it's on the person that writes the stuff in there. What the system does is take your hazard library and bring it into the doing of the risk assessment to enable you to speed that process up. Hopefully that makes sense, David. Thank you very, very much again for your question. Okie dokie. It's 2 minutes to 10. I wasn't expecting so many questions, so thank you very much for the question. I'm mega chuffed with that. So thank you for your time. Those of you that watch, thank you for your questions. David and Jay, two very competent safety professionals that I know through LinkedIn. So I saw your names asking questions. I was like, oh my God. But I think we got through it okay. If you'd like any more detail or I didn't answer any well enough, then please DM me. Happy to kind of go through any details. Anyone that's got any questions or any feedback or any comments, please DM me. Or you can email me, james@riskassessor.net. If you would like to kind of start using the app and play around with it for free, you can. So you can download Risk Assessor. You can sign up on the website as well, completely free of charge. The only thing that happens on the free side is that you are limited to the amount of assessments that you can hold in the system. And that's mainly just because we have to pay to rent the space of the cloud. And then also you have a watermark. So if you'd like to remove the watermark and remove the restriction on the number of documents, then you have to become a paid user. But ultimately, it's a great way to play around with the app and get used to it as much as you can. I suppose the only one last thing I would say, if any of you do go on the app, you can see on the phone and the tablet and online, there are several options through tutorial. So if you're on the desktop and you want a tutorial, just click this button up here on the top right-hand corner. Sorry, the Risk Assessor logo is in the way. It's just here, this one here. You click on that, it'll automatically open Vimeo on a page for a video of the page that you're on. If that makes sense, that's hard to say. So it'll open Vimeo and it will play a video that is applicable to the page that you are on. So if I click it now, it would be how to build a hazard library, if that makes sense. If you are on the tablet, which is not showing, let me fix that for you and then I'll show you. If you're on the tablet or the phone, it's essentially just a button that does move depending on where you are on the system, but ultimately there you go, just down here it says tutorial, so you just keep your eye out for a tutorial button and then that will show you the tutorial videos as well. But like I said, we're going to run these shows every month now. We're going to be going through stuff, give us a really good chance to talk to everyone and get some real good feedback and some good questions. Helps us go to develop the app. You can download for free. All the pricing is on the website. It's really upfront. Play around with it. Any thoughts, any comments, please let us know. And thank you for your time, everyone. It's been a pleasure.